It sounds like something out of science fiction. We brought back the dire wolf. But this is not a movie. This isn't any Jurassic Park BS. It is real. This happened in our current reality, somewhere in the Canadian Rockies, inside a high-security facility surrounded by snow and silence. A pack of animals that has not existed for more than 10,000 years is alive again. It is literally the start of any catastrophe movie you might know about science going too far. And not only are they alive, they are thriving. The dire wolf is back. Now we are left with a whole new kind of question, not how we did it, but why. And more importantly, what the hell do we do now? Around 20,000 years ago, Earth was a completely different planet. We were deep in the last glacial maximum, the peak of the most recent ice age. Massive ice sheets, some over 3 kilometers thick, stretched across much of the northern hemisphere. Nearly all of Canada and the northern third of what is now the United States lay buried under towering walls of ice. The glaciers were so massive they locked up trillions of gallons of water, dropping global sea levels by over 120 meters. The continents themselves looked different. Coastlines were wider, and long, submerged land bridges emerged from the ocean depths. One of them, Beringia, connected Siberia to Alaska, allowing humans and animals to migrate to the Americas for the first time. The climate was harsh, dry, cold, and unpredictable. Deserts expanded and forests shrank. In many places, fierce winds ripped across open tundras and permafrost plains. And yet, despite the cold, life thrived in staggering variety. North America was a Pleistocene paradise, if you were strong enough to survive it. Herds of Columbian mammoths and mastodons roamed the open grasslands, browsing ancient flora. Giant ground sloths, some the size of modern elephants, lumbered through patchy forests. American lions, larger than today's African lions, hunted alongside packs of dire wolves and the iconic saber-toothed cat, Smilodon fatalis. There were bears taller than polar bears, beavers the size of golden retrievers, and birds of prey with wingspans wide enough to blot out the sun. Even horses and camels, both native to North America before going extinct here, galloped across icy plains. It was a world of giants built for survival through cooperation, brute force, and adaptation. This was the stage the dire wolf stepped into. A land raw with opportunity and danger, a frozen kingdom teeming with predators, prey, and competition on a scale we can barely imagine today. And the dire wolf was right at the top of that food chain. Until the ice melted, the giants fell, and silence followed. So, what was a dire wolf really? Let's clear something up right away. Dire wolves were not just oversized German shepherds with better marketing. They were something else entirely. Imagine North America during the Pleistocene, around 20,000 years ago. It was cold, yes, but also alive in a way we can hardly imagine today. Towering mammoths lumbered across frozen plains, while ground sloths the size of minivans dragged their claws through brushland. Beavers were as big as bears, saber-toothed cats, giant vultures, and armored armadillos were all part of the background noise of this proto-America. And in the middle of that chaos was the dire wolf. These animals were not just big, they were built heavier than modern grey wolves, weighing in at up to 75 kilos, around 165 pounds. They had broader chests, shorter legs, and thicker bones. They stood nearly a meter tall at the shoulder, making them stocky and muscular, less sprinter and more battering ram. Their skulls were bigger and stronger too. Their jaws could generate over 500 newtons of bite force, enough to shatter bone, which, funnily enough, is exactly what they were designed to do. They did not nibble, they crushed. Today's grey wolves tend to have a bite force of about 200 newtons. Why such force? Well, because when you are fighting for scraps with saber-toothed cats and short-faced bears the size of SUVs, being polite doesn't get you fed. Dire wolves were bone crushers, pack hunters, and pressure cook survivors in a hyper-competitive world. So, it seems logical that they were not built for chasing rabbits. They thrived in a world dominated by giants, and their prey matched that scale of massive, armored, powerful, and often dangerous. They did not just hunt for meat. They hunted in a world of megafauna, where every meal could kill you. That is why dire wolves evolved into compact powerhouses, with shorter legs for grappling, broader chests for strength, and jaws capable of cracking bone wide open. Their main targets were the Pleistocene heavyweights, massive herbivores that dominated Ice Age North America. One of their most common prey was the ancient bison, Bison antiquus, which was up to 25% larger than the modern bison. These animals weighed close to a ton and stood nearly 2 meters tall at the shoulder with sharp, curved horns that could gore a predator clean through. Taking one down required numbers, strategy, and patience, traits dire wolves likely used as cooperative pack hunters who coordinated in silence, flanked from both sides, and targeted the young old or isolated. They also preyed on western camels, Camelops hesternus, tall, fast herbivores with long limbs and excellent vision. Built for speed and endurance on open plains, these were not the desert camels we know today, but muscular, cold, adapted browsers that could fight back with vicious kicks and a stampede's worth of momentum. Ambushing one at a river crossing or in deep snow may have been the only viable tactic. Another challenging meal was the Harlan's ground sloth, Paramilan harlani, which weighed over 1,500 kg, about the size of a small pickup truck. Slow-moving, yes, but heavily muscled and protected by thick hides with massive claws that could easily disembowel a predator. These sloths were probably only targeted under extreme conditions or when sick or injured, and even then the risk was high. Juvenile Colombian mammoths and mastodons were also on the menu, though rarely. Adult mammoths were well over 4 meters tall at the shoulder and weighed as much as 10 tons, protected by both sheer size and the formidable defense of their herd. But calves separated from the group represented a rare but massive payoff for a daring pack. In those situations, dire wolves would likely rely on relentless harassment, chasing, nipping, and exhausting the young elephantid until it collapsed under stress or injury. More regular targets included Pleistocene horses and peccaries, medium-sized ungulates that, while not as physically imposing, were agile and fast. Horses were especially challenging, directionally aware, and prone to running long distances. But dire wolves, with their cooperative tactics and bone-crushing jaws, could finish a hunt fast once the animal was slowed or injured. Peccaries, on the other hand, were fierce and tusked, capable of inflicting serious wounds if cornered, but small enough that a coordinated wolf pack could overwhelm them with numbers. When large prey was scarce, dire wolves likely scavenged from kills made by other predators like Smilodon, American lions, and short-faced bears, or competed with them head-on, turning every meal into a fight for dominance. That is why their jaws were so overbuilt, not just to kill, but to win the rights to feed. Even their teeth tell a story, heavily worn, often broken, with deep signs of bone gnawing. They did not just eat meat. They devoured entire carcasses, cracking ribs, splitting femurs, digging into marrow. They were not picky. They were not going after weaklings like wolves of today tend to do. They went after whatever they could bring down as a group and rip apart with raw brute force. Predators made for a brutal ecosystem where every hunt could end in a feast or in nothingness. But then everything changed. As the Ice Age ended, so did the megafauna. Climate shifted, ecosystems collapsed, and humans armed with fire tools and persistence swept across the land. Prey disappeared and competitors rose. And the dire wolf, like most creatures that are perfectly adapted to their environment, was now the perfect fit for a world that no longer existed. Thus they died with it, or so we thought. For years, scientists had been collecting dire wolf bones from tar pits and caves, scraping ancient DNA from fractured teeth and fossilized marrow. At first, it was just about learning who they were, like we usually do for all other extinct species and fossils we find on sites all across the globe. But then something strange turned up. DNA discovery and its manipulation enabled us to do things we did not think were possible, like prevent or cure disease, transfer blood, and detect family ties more accurately than any family records. In more recent years, ISPR came in, making the possibility to revive extinct species more than a distant dream. In 2021, a groundbreaking genetic study found that dire wolves were not actually wolves at all. Not really. They had split off from the ancestors of grey wolves 6 million years ago. That is not a cousin, that is another branch on the tree entirely. And that meant something huge. If you wanted to bring one back, you could not just clone a wolf and tweak few genes. You had to rebuild it fully, because the differences between the two species would be way too important for the new creature to be called dire wolves. So that is exactly what they did. Colossal has been working toward resurrecting the mammoth, dodo, and Tasmanian tiger since 2021. But the company had not previously publicized its work on dire wolves. Ben Lamb, Colossal's co-founder and CEO, stated in a news release that this massive milestone is the first of many coming examples demonstrating that our end to indie extinction technology stack works. Our team took DNA from a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 72,000-year-old skull and made healthy dire wolf puppies. The 3 dire wolves are living on a 2,000-acre site in an undisclosed location enclosed by 10-foot-tall, 3-meter-tall zoo grade fencing where they are monitored by security personnel, drones, and live camera feeds. Colossal said the facility had been certified by the American Humane Society and registered with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The program was called Fenrir, named after the monstrous wolf of Norse mythology. A lovely name, isn't it? It started in secret, backed by biotech companies, conservationists, and just enough money to make the impossible sound like a good investment. They began with the African wild dog, an animal that shared more in common with the dire wolf than any modern wolf did. Then came Prehistoric, the genetic scalpel. Piece by piece, scientists edited its genome, stitching in fragments of recovered dire wolf DNA. This was not cloning, it was reconstruction. They reverse-engineered the dire wolf, starting from its closest living relative. When the gene sequence was ready, it was implanted into lab-grown surrogate mothers, engineered to carry the weight of a 70-kilo predator. And in March 2025 it happened. 3 pups were born, alive and healthy, and unmistakably not normal. The world lost its mind. News broke within hours. Social media lit up with blurry photos and shaky videos showing wide-pawed puppies with thick coats and cold yellow eyes. Headlines screamed, "The Ice Age is back." For a moment, it felt like a scientific miracle. Homo sapiens successfully cancelled extinction, and not just on a species very close to us, but on something far more distant, making the return of anything else an actual possibility. But then came the harder questions. What are these animals really? Are they wild? Are they synthetic? Are they some strange in-between? Can we actually call them dire wolves? And now that we have brought them back, what are we supposed to do with them? It is the oldest debate in science. Just because you can do something, should you? Critics say this is Frankenstein-level hubris. That these animals were gone for a reason. Their base ecosystem was gone, their prey all extinct. Even if early humans had a part in it, it is far from immaterial proven. And even if they did, it is probably nowhere near the role we have in most extinctions of today. Bringing them back now could unravel ecosystems, or worse, open the door to a world where nature is something we manufacture. But defenders have a different take. We caused most of these extinctions, directly or indirectly. Maybe we owe it to the planet to reverse some of the damage. With biodiversity in freefall, maybe resurrecting species is not science fiction anymore, but survival. Potentially our contribution to nature and a way to help reverse climate change. Here is the part that might sound craziest. The goal was never to keep these creatures behind glass. This seems like absolute madness, as even the Jurassic Park dinosaurs were never meant to reach the mainland and were supposed to be kept contained in cages. But the Fenrir team had other plans from the beginning to release the dire wolves into a fenced, semi-wild preserve in Alberta, a closed ecosystem full of elk and deer, where the wolves could be studied as they learn to live and hunt on their own. The logic: Canada's elk population has been growing out of control without natural predators. Forests are thinning and rivers are eroding. Sound familiar? It is what is happening in Yellowstone, but colder. And this time, instead of reintroducing grey wolves, we are introducing something older, more primal. But there is a risk, and a big one at that. These animals did not evolve with modern ecosystems. They were sculpted by Ice Age chaos. They are way tougher than anything that any wolf, an elk, might have encountered. This thing might even be dangerous to bears and grizzlies, given its specs and pack behavior. We are putting ghosts into a world that forgot them and hoping they remember how to haunt. What are they like? So far, early reports are intense. The wolves are quiet around humans, observant, watchful, not aggressive. Yet, modern wolves learn to fear humans from ancestral times onward. This does not seem to be the case for them, which actually increases the risk of encounter or worse. When it comes to hunting, well, the learning curve was promptly climbed. They are terrifyingly efficient. They don't chase like modern wolves. They ambush, attack without warning, kill fast, and then disappear. How do they communicate? Their communication is almost silent, consisting of deep, low rumbles and subtle body language, with very little howling. It is like they know that loud animals do not last long in predator country. They are not wolves, they are not dogs, they are something new, or rather, something very old. Let's not sugarcoat it. Bringing these animals back cost millions in research and resources, but it also cost something way harder to measure. These wolves have no family, no pack culture, no mother to teach them the rules of the wild. They are the first of their kind in 10,000 years. And unless we keep making more, they are also the last. For them to survive any genetic bottleneck and avoid ending up like Rangel Island's mammoths, we have to make more. Or should we? What are these individuals exactly? A species, a project, a product? No one really knows. And the boundary does not seem to be that clear. The wolves are out. As of April 25, 5 dire wolves roam the Alberta Reserve, where they have made their first kill and established a hierarchy. Last week, they tore through a double, reinforced fence to reach a herd of deer, and while no humans were hurt, the message was loud and clear. These are not displays, these are real predators. Now that we have released them into the wild, they are letting us know there is no taking them back into custody. So, what now? What do we do with this? Bringing back the dire wolf will not fix the climate. It will not regrow lost forests or undo the damage we have done. But maybe it forces us to ask a better question. What kind of future are we building? One where wildness is something we edit, tame, and market, or one where we make space for the unknown again? Because the dire wolves are here now, alive, watching, waiting. Whether we are ready or not, we have opened the door. Is this the end or just the beginning? We brought back a predator from the Ice Age, not to fix the world, not to dominate it, just because we could do it. Or maybe just to remind ourselves of the taste of fear, that nature doesn't forget, that even after 10,000 years, a heartbeat returned stronger, stranger, and hungrier than we remembered. The dire wolf is no longer a fossil. It is a question, a warning, and maybe, just maybe, a second chance. Thanks for walking into the past with me. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing, as this greatly helps and encourages us to post more videos. Also, feel free to like it and drop a comment below. We would love to hear your thoughts on the matter, and we'll try to respond to everyone. Until next time, keep listening to the echoes.